Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Impulso Podcast. We're continuing to bring more guests today, and with us we have Jianggan,
Hello.
Chao,
Hi, everyone.
and Shaolin.
Hello.
Very nice to meet you all, and if only you could briefly introduce yourself first.
Yeah, maybe I can start. My name is Chao. I've been in the tech industry for more than 12 years so far. Spent most of my time in startups in the US and in Southeast Asia. I work with Shaolin in their large internet company in Southeast Asia, which I'm not sure if I can name the name, but we build things like a lot of things together, including ride-hailing, food delivery, and logistics apps. I've been focusing myself on building fintech arms in the US and Southeast Asia in the last 2 and 3 years. But I'm also very keen in exploring opportunities in AI and in more cutting-edge technologies, starting from last year. Very nice to meet everyone here. Love to chat more about things that are interesting.
Yeah. So thank you, Dalia. Thank you, Jianggan. So and hi, the dear audience of this podcast. So I'm Shaolin. I'm so glad to be invited to this channel to share about my experience. So I started working for a large internet platform in Southeast Asia since 2015, and I was an engineering leader role there. I established and operated this China R&D center since then. I began spend a lot of time traveling between China and Southeast Asia and start getting a real feeling for this place. And in 2020, I decided to start my own thing and set up NextBillion.ai in Singapore. We are a SaaS company that helps businesses with map and location technology. It was actually a big change for me, moving from the tech lead role to a founder's role. So I would love to share more about that experience.
Great. I mean, you guys didn't want to name the company, but you mentioned about ride-hailing, you mentioned about food delivery, and everyone can guess which company that is in Southeast Asia. I have some, of course, some discussion points which I would want to find out from you guys about your perspectives and insights. But before we start, Chao, the stack of books behind you, why are they stacked in this way?
Why they're stacked in this way? I've been shuffling them a lot, quite often, actually. They're different. There's no standard principle I'm following to structure the books, but in general, the business books are in this position, and above that there are some, self-help and Chinese legendary books and novels. I guess just depends on the time in a year, which I like to read different types of books. Yeah.
So do you always take the book from the top, or you actually play the game of trying to take a book out from the bottom without causing the whole stack to collapse?
I wish my life is that fun, but unfortunately it's not. Because when I'm sitting on this chair, the easiest book I can get is I just put my most recent book I'm reading on that position. That's it.
The only book I can recognize is the the number 4 from the top. Is that 价值?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Aha. So, and you cannot reach it. So basically means you don't read it.
No, I finished it. I like it. Yeah.
So basically, Shaolin, you recognize this book. You've read this book. 价值 means value, right?
Yeah. It's, I think, from founder of Hill House.
Okay, founder from Hill House, which is, I think, one of the largest investment firms in China, which have really followed the journey of the whole the tech development in China over the last 20 years. But of course, now we're in 2023. It's a very different reality we're living in now. So you guys have worked in different places, right? I mean, Shaolin, you have worked in Beijing, and you've worked in Singapore, and you have led multinational teams. And Chao, you have worked in Seattle, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
And now Singapore. So you have also led sort of cross-cultural teams. What are you guys I think what are the key sort of lessons and feedback that you have, I mean, from that experience? How to compare the different cultures in different markets that you are in?
Shaolin, you want to start?
Yeah, so I think that there are a lot of things, a lot of differences there. So, but if I have to highlight one thing that I observed between a Chinese team, a Chinese tech team, a Singapore tech team, and a US tech team, that would be how to embrace changes of different teams. So, for example, the Chinese team are clearly the strongest. They are usually open
Embrace
to fast
change. That was part of the Alibaba value. Embrace change.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually,
and I
yeah,
found
it
it.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, I also found it quite important when you are trying to break into a new market that you do not know about. You cannot just do something that you used to do. You need to do something new, and you will be failing a lot of the times. So how to face that failure and how to embrace the change, I found it quite important, and it also varies from different culture. So the Chinese team, they are the strongest against these kind of changes. They are open to fast iteration. They can do quick trial and fail fast, and they accept that what they are working on might not be success. So, but and in the other hand, the US tech team really need a lot of certainty. So they feel that working on a product that might fail is kind of a waste of their time. So they will voice their concerns loudly in the company and demanding more solid evidence that a product is viable. So I once heard a joke about this. The engineer says that show me the data points to prove the product design is viable. And the product manager replies, we will have the data points after it's launched. It's a very common conflict when a Chinese team is working directly with an US team. And the Singapore team is kind of in the middle, and it's not that it will embrace the changes, and it also asks you to consider it more and to do it in a sophisticated way. So I personally like this Singapore culture.
Yeah, so I think what Shaolin shared just now was quite insightful. It's really interesting comparison between U.S., Singapore, and Chinese teams. My experience is a little bit different, right? So I feel really, in terms of embracing change, the willingness and how much agility a team demonstrates really depends on who you hired, right? So there, companies in China as well, there are large tech companies, but not necessarily operating in a fast-moving environment, right? So I don't want to name the names, right? So there are companies, they're coming, maybe they're U.S. companies, maybe they're European companies. They have established for 100 years or even 50 years, right? So the pace of change is quite slow, and people usually coming from that background, they will demand a lot of data points to understand why we're building this. Is this the right approach to build this, right? So you spend a lot of time basically negotiating, convincing, aligning with your teams. But that makes sense because in companies like that, the time they spend on making a decision is like maybe a few months, right? So, but the impact of the decision will last for maybe 5 or 10 years, right? So that's kind of normal. In the U.S., there are similar companies as well, right? So they have been established for quite a while. Their business is quite large. Whatever changes you're making is going to be a big hit on their revenue or profit. So they want to take decisions more consciously. But for example, Silicon Valley, right? So and maybe Seattle, right? So a city where you can find a lot of startups, right? So, and you can find a lot of people who are actually willing to make changes quickly. In fact, when Facebook was started, one of the principle they follow is move fast and break things, right? So they're willing to embrace not only change but failures, right? So I think it really depends on the culture you set for a team and the talents you can attract, right? So, but in general, what I find is in countries like the U.S. and Singapore, because I think Singapore is an outlier. Maybe we'll discuss it later. In the U.S., because the tech industry or the software industry has been established for a longer period of time, you find more people with more systematic thinking, right? So they can structurally expressing themselves, analyzing they spend more time on analyzing the problems, which makes their argument more, more structured and easily understandable by different parties. So communication was quite easy for me, at least, when working with teams in the U.S. But versus, the Chinese teams sometimes, right? So also depends on the people you can find, right? So and the background they come from. Sometimes aligning your thinking with them, it can be a little bit challenging. Not only in Chinese teams, but also in countries where the entire software industry was in the earlier stage, because people haven't been experienced more, rigid training or practices, right? So communication, aligning your thinking in terms of technical solutions can be different from the U.S. teams. So that's some nuances I want to add to your comments, Johnny.
Yeah, yeah. There are some. So when I try to prove my points in the past, one data point I would always share is about going to a restaurant. So for example, in China, in Singapore, and in the US, it's quite different type of experience. So when you are trying to get to a restaurant in China, a lot of them are not taking any reservations. You just walk in. So because they don't want to perfectly plan tonight, like who is taking this table from 7 to 9 and who is going to take it over from 9 to 11. So usually they don't want to do these kind of things, and people don't want to make such very precise reservation and make their life quite with a lot of certainty. But in Singapore and in the US, it's quite different. So even your personal life, people are sending a calendar invite to your calendar. That's a quite different culture. So when it comes to people get together as a team. But as you said, there are different cultures of different group of people. In the US, you can similarly have a team that is quite work like crazy, like Elon Musk team. Or I remember that guy, Andrew Ng, right? So he shared that he need engineer to work 80 hours a week, which people in the community says no to him. But in China, working 80 hours a week is quite normal.
Yeah, I think it's different system designs, right? So when you design a company or teams in a way that the team members have to work 80 hours a week, and you basically you need to be very vocal about it and transparent about it, right? So you talk about it when you're hiring, interviewing your candidates. You tell them, hey, you are expected to work 80 hours, 100 hours a week. And then the people you attract or you hired are this type of people, right? So another example I can think of is Netflix, right? So Netflix is they're based in LA, right? So which is a really interesting and fun city. I mean, the measurement they use to, basically measure the velocity is not about, how many hours the people put into work, but it's about the velocity of making decisions, right? So I think that's one of the, things I would want to call out. Sometimes when people are thinking we're moving fast, it's simply saying people are putting more hours in the office or at work, right? So, but in a larger or, growing organization, how quickly you can make a decision and get a result and to circle back and basically iterate is on a broader scale that helps you to move much faster as an organization rather than as individuals, right? So I think a lot of the restaurants, as you mentioned, right? So because their business model are designed, right? So it's not like I'm opening a restaurant and I'm waiting for guests to come and they order whatever they want, right? So but I'm designing a system that I'm only taking this amount of guests, so my kitchen can run in a way that efficient enough and also maintainable by myself, right? So and I can still have a business. So I think a lot of times, when you're in a trend that is basically going up, right? So you have more and more populations start using mobile internet in the last 10 years, not only in China but also in Southeast Asia, right? So a lot of opportunities are unseen. You just don't know where they are, right? So you just wanted to do something, and then maybe the opportunity, the luck will hit you, right? So at that point of time, trying a lot of things without design, that works, right? So but if you compare it, a more mature market, maybe in the US or Europe, right? So a lot of the systems or companies or business models needs to be designed beforehand, before even you start anything like that, anything you want to try. So I think that's a key difference. I think one of the topics we're going to cover today is, what are the opportunities out there? The market is still in a chaotic mode. I think, putting more designs in your team and companies and business models maybe initially makes you feel you're moving slower, but maybe over time, you on the hindsight, you're actually moving faster because you're making, less mistakes.
Yeah, we're looking at. I think we mentioned about Alibaba's culture, right? Embrace change. I mean, or at least what they want their people to adhere to. Alibaba says embrace change. I think you mentioned about Facebook in early days, move fast and break things. And I also remember that I think in Amazon there's this thing called learn and be curious. So of course organizations are trying to get their people to adapt, right? Because it's a changing environment. But how to adapt to the changes and how do you plan for things? How do you execute? Different cultures, different companies in different countries or in different sectors will probably do it very differently. So both of you actually transitioned from working in a large internet company, which we shall not name, to become founders, and just try to understand what's the sort of mental process that you guys went through to make that decision, and what has been the mental journey afterwards? Because I would imagine like working for a large company that we should not name has been quite comfortable.
Yeah, it used to be super comfortable to me. So because I'm leading a large team, and my boss is always in a different country, so he won't be able to watch me. So it was a wonderful journey there. But to me, I'm the part of the reason that I decided to leave the company is because I wish to do something even bigger in my life. So the working experience of in a very large company, and especially like what Chao has shared, they designed that company in a certain way that you want to push something, you need to talk to dozens of the other leaders. So, and you will never find a time that you can get every one of them in the meeting room all together. So you need to have 3 separate meetings with them. And you need to have 10 rounds of back and forth before you can really do anything. So I cannot comment that if it is correct or not correct, but that is the experience I was facing. So I was also observing that there are so many new technologies there. We still remember when we first joined that company in 7-8 years ago. The company was using Go language, which make it a pioneer in some kind of pioneer in the industry. So because at the moment that the Golang language is not that mature, it's still not even version 1. It's version 0 point something, I remember. So it's but now it's not pioneer at all. So the kind of technology become quite old, and as a company at that scale, you cannot just change your fundamental technology. But as a small company, you can always try new things, I think that's part of the reason that at least my mental model that why I decided to leave. But to adapt to a new role is a different thing. So it's been even harder, actually.
Okay, can you tell more?
Oh yeah. So I think it's a totally different way of being someone in the middle layer, or someone as the co-founder. So the key differences is who take the responsibility. So it's as a middle layer or even the executive layer, you still don't take the final responsibility of what you have done, because the worst case you just quit, and you won't need to pay back all your salary. Your salary is already paid. That's yours. So there's actually not that bad, right? So that's why you don't need to think things through. You need to you some of the time you're fearless, so because there's no consequences, so you can just do it. So, but as a founder, you take the final responsibility of the company, and some of the time the outcome can be quite bad. So you may need to you may end up like in a scenario that you need to sell one of your house to get the money to keep the company run for another 6 months, which you don't know if these 6 months can save the company. So it's much worse, which makes you feel like make your feeling totally different. So, and this helps people to grow. That's the best part I found here.
So basically, you're talking about selling one of your houses, and we can only imagine how many houses you have. But
that's the problem. I don't have much, so I can only save the company for 6 months.
Okay, one house. Okay, so I think. I think what you have just mentioned is something that I can personally resonate, right? Because many years ago I was sort of a founder with the Rocket Internet, and now of course I sort of I'm in charge of my own company, which I funded with external investors, and people often ask me what's the difference between being a Rocket founder versus your own founder, and it took me a while to reflect, but the reflection is exactly what I just mentioned, right? So at Rocket, even though you are managing a whole company, you can always quit if you don't like it, or if you feel tired, exhausted, you can always quit, saying that, hey, I quit. I give my 1 month notice, and that's it. I don't have to worry about it. I can go on a holiday for 1 month. But being a founder yourself, I mean, with your own company, with external stakeholders, etc. So you really don't have that option, right? Because whatever you do, you have consequences. You have to be responsible for the people who trusted you to join you on this journey, and people who trusted you enough to give you money. So, and of course, your clients who trusted you enough to let you to try your products, even though it is not as established as a mature company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the journey for me is the journey for me is different from you guys, because sounds like you guys were really having some good life, and feels comfortable. My experience in the large company was not that pleasant, because one of the biggest reasons is I was living in Seattle back then. But my teams and the product we're building are used by associations, right? So there's a 16-hour difference between us. So I didn't realize that, but when I quit company, doing something in the US, I realized my hair grows much faster, because I get better sleep, right? So I used to wake up in the morning at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. because system went down or there are issues here and there. Right, so I feel I'm just like a working machine, right? So woke up, receiving emails, check my Slack messages, for a couple of hours and go to work, start working with folks in Seattle, and at 4 p.m. meetings with Singapore stars, right? So and last until 10 p.m., 11 p.m. You just don't have any personal time, right? So that was not really great, right? So and the time when I quit company, I know the company was doing quite okay, right? So and we are on a stable track to IPO, right? So but it ended up taking a little bit longer than I thought. But when companies going public, before you were actually listed, you want to have a more stable track, right? So you don't actually want to try a lot of audacious things. You just want to make sure you're the financially and regulatory wise you are on track, right? So that was the period of time you feel things are being slowed down, right? So you can still invest your 16-hour day into this job, right? So but the return is diminishing, right? So and especially that was during COVID time. You're just too far away from all the things that happened in this community. Because I think whenever we face a crisis like that, at this large scale, there's some common memories you share with your community, right? So you maybe people in Singapore, you all experience this lockdown period, right? So and then you order things from GrabFood, right? So but I was free in Seattle. I can drive around, right? So I can go, go hiking, do whatever I want. So that was a completely different experience. So it was time for me. I was with the company for more than almost 6 years, and then it was quite demanding, right? So and I feel a little bit isolated, right? So when there's an opportunity for me to start something new in a more like a local market back then for me, so I that was actually a no-brainer for me, right? So and the biggest difference, as Shaolin suggested, you just feel a massive responsibility on the people that, joined you on this journey, no matter you know them before, you hired them from LinkedIn, right? So I think there are a lot of folks I hired back then, were strangers, complete strangers. I just keep sending them LinkedIn messages, emails every week. Finally, they respond, and then you sell a story to them, right? So this company is going to be big. Right, so it's going to be something, one of the once in a life journey for you, right? So you say that, and you believe in that, but when the dream hits reality, there are hiccups, right? So how do you make sure your faith is strong enough that bringing the people along and while leading them, right? So and really basically giving them the things you promised to them, right? So that was quite. That's a huge responsibility, but also I'm feeling very excited because now you have the options, right? So because you know the goal, you know where you want to go, and you decide which path you want to go there, take to go there, right? So different from in an established organization or companies, right? So you just follow instructions. And sometimes leaders just ask you, a lot of leaders, they're not that skillful either, right? So just ask you, trust me, right? So I will lead you through this path, but it's really hard to trust them sometimes, right? So, and you feel you are certainly living in a kind of uncertain way versus when you're building something new, right? So as an entrepreneur, as a founder, you feel a lot of uncertainty, but you are certain that you're going to lead this company, you're going to lead this team to get success you promised to yourself and to your team. So that's a subtle difference I noticed.
There's another aspect I wanted to touch upon. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned about common memories, right? I mean, because that's what bonds a group of people together. But as founder or co-founder, I mean, it's almost you're almost destined to be lonely, right? Because there are lots of things. I mean, of course, you duped all your people to work for you, and there are lots of things that you can tell, and there are lots of things you can't tell, and there are lots of mental struggles that you have to keep it to your own. Maybe have some mentors to go to. I was talking to some of the very early guys of Alibaba. They were saying that in the early days when things were tough, Jack Ma actually hid lots of things, right? That he didn't tell them a lot of challenges that he was facing, and he was keeping to himself. And how do you reconcile that loneliness?
Yeah, I have this here sitting right beside me. I think that's quite true. That's quite true. So one mistake I was made is that the majority of my current team is someone I used to know. So it's someone that I used to work with, someone as my old team members. So I hire them because we know each other, because we know that they are the right people. They have very good mindset. They have very good technology capability. But the bad part is they used to be my friends, but hire them into the team, that makes you very hard to choose how to face them as friends or as team members. That's very different. So if in the future I would rather to say let us hire someone we don't know, then makes things much easier in one hand. So some of the time. But it's true that is a huge problem. So that is the one thing that you need to learn to handle. So.
Are they going to listen to this?
Yeah,
podcast?
This helps, quite helpful.
Yeah, I hope your team is not listening to this podcast. Otherwise, you have to elaborate who are you talking about, right? Make sure they don't feel scared. Yeah, I think that's really true, right? So founders are I want to hear your thoughts as well, Jianggan, right? So I think when you're building something for yourself or for a group of people, you have a bunch of co-founders. Even though you have co-founders, but each one of you're feeling different types of loneliness, right? So I wonder how is Shaolin conquer this, with his co-founders. So I think that is the hardest part, right? So that's one of the things I read, right? So people when people are getting their final success, right? So they went through all these difficulties, different case scenarios, find new funding rounds and try to hire a team, right? So actually the founders, they wanted to quit every day, right? So they just try to overcome this fear when they wake up, right? So and try to do things. That's one of the reasons you see a lot of founders like Elon Musk or all these successful guys, right? So they're doing new things every day, every month. They maybe buy a new company, every year, right? So I think they just keep trying to find new incentives or things that can make them excited, right? So otherwise, starting a company, like Shaolin said, you hire your friends. Now you become confused whether they're your family or they're your team, they're your employees, right? So that's really hard to handle sometimes. And you just want to quit, right? So sometimes you just want to quit. So I think finding new things that excites you, that help you to see new opportunities, right? So the bigger future you can go. That's the only way, right? So it's very addictive.
I see that sometimes as a drug that you're addicted to, right? So. So when I was doing Rocket, I had lots of counterparts who were running different rocket companies, and that was exhilarating, right? Because your late 20s, you get millions of dollars to burn, and you don't really have any real responsibility. As you can be reckless because it's not really your own company, so you can afford to supercharge it and leave the consequences to someone else. And that's an exciting experience. But for many people, and afterwards. They become depressed because they get addicted to that excitement.
Yes.
To find something more exciting, and of course, chances are most of you will not be. And I had that discussion with people who have been very successful as well. So after success, they want to find things which are more exciting than what led to their success. But it's difficult. So it's like, how would I say? I also know people who have always been in in a very, very stable environment and refuse to look at what's outside. But it is comfortable because it can really get you addicted to this excitement drug, and which you will never find any final solution, because you constantly want to have something more.
Yeah.
I thought they are chewing the glass or somehow. So yeah, addicted to chewing the glasses.
Yeah, I think in a healthy society, you want to have a small group of folks, right? So doing exactly that. That's basically how you grow the entire pie. So every one of us got a little bit more, right? So, but you also want to have a lot of people doing that. Otherwise, your society is not going to be stable at all, right? So, I think the US is going to an extreme, right? So you just see everybody doing that in the Bay Area, right? So you might be a staff engineer at Meta or at Google, but nobody gives you shit, right? So because you don't have anything, on the side, you don't have a side hustle, you are not a founder, no matter how small things you're doing, right? So, but in Singapore, I see a little bit different. I think a lot of people are choosing more stable life, right? So, but you also, I think that's why this policy is really encouraging, right? So you need entrepreneurs, founders to come to live in this country and to grow the pie together. It's a job, but people are voluntarily to take.
Let's come back a little bit to the year we're living in, like 2023, and almost like everybody that I spoke to who is an entrepreneur founder is saying that this year has been difficult. I mean, for a number of reasons. I mean, first, capital cost is high, so which means that for the same ideas, for the same sort of quality of product they put in, I mean, fundraising is more difficult, and of course, your corporate clients are more stingy with their budget because of the cost of capital, and of course, mortgage rates, etc. That led to consumers to be more careful with their spending. So the whole year is in this uncertainty of okay, is the interest rate going to remain high? And I think we got that certainty, at least last 2 weeks, saying that okay, yes, it's going to stay high for a while, and the year has been difficult. So how do you guys think about this year, and how do you see yourself and the friends around you actually go through this and stay motivated for the next year? Because I mean, we all know that. I mean, everyone knows that things will become better sooner or later. But the period of you don't know when things will start to pick up, it's actually quite painful.
Yeah, exactly. So I think to us, it's been a tough year. So and exactly like what you have shared, the interest rate caused us very hard to raise another round. And uncertainty of economy cause our customers don't want to spend, and they are also not growing their business, so that we are not growing as we expected. So that's very true, and we don't see a clear path that is going to be fixed at least within the next 48 months. That's how we are planning for that. The planning for
48 months. That's like 4 years.
Yeah. That's what.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's quite bad. Honestly, it's quite bad. Chewing the glass for 4 years. So yeah. So how to motivate is also quite hard. So because the uncertainty is so many uncertainties. So take us as an example. So we are building a SaaS business. So as we begin, we thought that we are going to be growing extremely fast. So because we believe that we know exactly how the customers are thinking. We know exactly how to build the product. And while I was talking to some of the very experienced investors, they told us that to build a successful SaaS platform, it may take you 3 to 5 years. So at the very beginning, I don't believe to it. I think it only take me 1 to 2 years to finish that. But now it's the 4th year. We are still not that kind of mature as a product. And also because the fundamental model of this SaaS business, we are not growing extremely fast like those e-commerce or other social network type of company, which makes us even harder to raise money these days. So slow revenue growth, hard fundraising, and we are still in a stage that we are building the product. So makes it, I don't know, triple hard to our lives. So we need to manage this carefully. We are planning it carefully. Like I just shared, 48 months is the estimation. So how we can survive that 48 months?
Yeah, things are very hard, this year. So I highly recommend this book written by Jianggan, Seeing the Unseen. Right? So, if you're...
How come you get a book and the whole thing does not crash?
Whole thing does not crash? Oh, this one?
The whole stack, yeah.
Oh, this is a floating bookshelf. It's really nice. I really like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, you can actually take the book out. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. It's not a stack of books only. It's just it's a bookshelf.
Okay.
Yeah, but this book is quite good, right? So I think, like Shaolin suggested, a lot of people are preparing their runway for the next 36 to 48 months, right? So in case they're not able to raise nut rounds, right? So but I think the biggest difference is, in the last 5 or 10 years, 5 to 10 years, people are getting growth with at expense of money, right? So because the money was cheap for the longest period of time in history, right? So we see a crazily pouring market in emerging markets or in a more established market as well, right? So buying users, buying their loyalties was not a question until most recently, this year, maybe starting from 2022, that was not the case, right? So so that's why we see a lot of companies started during COVID in 2020 or 2021, when money was extremely cheap, right? So they raised a lot of money and they got some growth initially. Now they're all facing similar issues, right? But I think it's quite a fair game, right? So it's not only one company, but all companies are experiencing the same. So it's a battle for resilience, and also because every startup company is facing the same issues. So you don't worry too much about people. You lose people to the other companies. However, things are changing, right? So this community of US engineer and tech talents looks like Meta has started hiring crazy again, right? So they want to hire another 4,500 employees across the globe, right? So including Singapore, London, and the US. I think that might be just a start for another hiring spree for these large companies, right? So if you look at their stock price, they bounced back really quickly from their dip last November, right? So now their stock price is at maybe the COVID level, right? So I think it's not hard to imagine they will start growing quickly again, right? So which means hiring more employees, doing more MAs, right? So so probably companies like like the SaaS companies we talked about, right? So you don't actually need another 48 months, but you can also can start thinking about selling, right? Because there will be MAs happening, I think, right? So I think there's still a lot of optimistics in the market nowadays. We just need to get used to this slow ramp up period, right? So you don't got 100,000 users every month anymore, maybe only 100, right? So, but over time, accumulating that momentum works, right?
Yep. So when I was researching the book together with the Professor Chen of INSEAD, and we actually examined some of the top entrepreneurs from China for the current generation of internet companies, the founders of ByteDance, the founder of Meituan, the founder of Pinduoduo. So one thing we realized in common is that all three founders spent 7 years being a founder of different other companies before they started their current company. So people talk about, okay, they started this company in 2012, then wow, it went like exponential, and Pinduoduo was started in 2015, 2 years was IPO, but very few people look at the 7 years trying different things before figuring out something which finally works. So that's something which which probably gives people some hope, right? I mean, look at these guys. I mean, they spent so many years trying to figure out how things work, and eventually they made it work. So I also wanted to bring up two quotes, right? I mean, one is probably something that everyone's familiar with from Jack Ma, which said, "Today is difficult, tomorrow is more difficult, and the day after tomorrow is beautiful. Most people die tomorrow evening." So I have talked to lots of people who were with him in the early days. I think there were lots of hardship that he went through, and which led to whatever Alibaba was when he handed over to his successor. And there's another quote. I'm not sure if you guys read this book, Hard Things About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. So he had this quote in the book. "Whenever I meet a successful CEO, I ask them how they did it. Mediocre CEOs point to the brilliant strategic moves or their intuitive business sense, or a variety of other self-congratulatory explanations." So, of course, as we stand at the end of 2023 and looking forward to 2024, maybe my last question for you guys. So, how do you see the opportunities on the horizon, and of course leading large engineering teams in a large organization, and now being a founder? I'm sure lots of people come to you guys for advice, right? Saying that, hey, I'm in a situation that you were in like 3-4 years ago. I want to do my own business, or I have this brilliant idea. Sure, I start. And what would be your advice to people?
So my feeling is, first of all, we have shared that our estimation is it's going to be bad in the next 48 months, which basically means the big pie is not growing. So any pie you can have is something that you grab from some other's hands. So it will be tough to get existing pie comparing to get something new. And which basically means that you, for example, as a founder, you can only, I believe that you can only do something that you have already been invested in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Some area that you are so familiar with that you can find the flows in that industry, and you can start working on those flows to build a new product with some new technology. I think that will only be the chance. It's not like 5 years ago, you have a new idea, you get some fundraising, you try it. Now it's like if your idea is going to be failing, you highly likely you won't even be able to raise a large amount. And also the demand for profitability is also going to be quite high. It's not like you can raise series A, B, C, D before you are profitable. Now it's like you raise A and B, and you need to be profitable at that moment. So you need to really care about your business model. It cannot be just only some imagination and some uncertainty in the future. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I think that's largely right. Investors are really risk averse these days. So when it comes to fundraising, they're being very selective, right? So they're still investing in big bets like foundational models, right? So you probably have seen hundreds of different foundational models in China these days. Even though you have big models built by different big companies as well. So I do think people are still taking risk. They're just taking risk in a very in a more calculated way, right? So or in a way that they're even more unfamiliar with, right? So how many VCs actually can you say large language model, the mechanism behind it, right? So I think I would always say starting a company or building your own business is a lifestyle choice rather than you're trying to earn money, or if you have a very concrete purpose and if you want to earn a lot of money, maybe joining a large company, right? So joining Google or Facebook, right? So or maybe Shopee, Grab, right? So I know this company is going to give you a really comfortable pay, right? So and then can give you stock options, and it's tough times, but tough times, there are more opportunities inside the company as well. It's more, safer for you. It's more, you have more certainties. But if you are someone who wanted to build something on your own, and you want people to use your stuff, right? So, and really enjoying it, right? So starting a company or starting a product, not necessarily meaning you have to quit your job, right? So, if you don't like this kind of corporate life, you just want to go to Bali today and, rent a house and then build things, selling it to, to the US, to the UK, right? So you can also do that, right? So I think it's more about a lifestyle choice, right? So what kind of life you want to live, right? So maybe something you build today can be large in 2 and 3 years. Who knows, right? So nobody can predict the future, right? So we don't, before this year, metaverse and blockchain were still the hottest investing topic, right? So now nobody's talking about metaverse anymore, right? So, and blockchain is becoming a daring, topic. Everybody's talking about AI, chatbot, foundational models, right? So who knows what's going to come up next year? Maybe it's something you're building today, right? So I think, the power of wondering is very powerful, right? So like Jianggan said, a lot of successful founders, they spend a lot of time wandering around. They don't know what they want to build, but they know they want to build something, right? So it's completely okay. You build something this month, you don't feel interested in it anymore in the next month, and you try something else, right? So as long as you have the financial, stability, sort of like that, right? So, or to support you doing this, that's the choice everybody is free to make. Because I think the bright side here today is now you have all these AI tools, Midjourney, ChatGPT, and there are tons of other tools. You can literally start something, you can only do with a 20-person outsourcing team in India 2 years ago, right? So everybody who knows how to write code, how to do basic marketing, how to design a rough product can do their own thing today. So I think the cost is super cheap, but in terms of the upsides, it's really hard to say, right? So I would say focus on yourself, choose the life you want to live in, right? So and then enjoy.
That's very very nice summary, and also very nice optimistic tone for lots of people that have gone through. I mean, even people in large companies, it has been a tough year, right? I mean, layoffs and all this competition, etc., etc. So, but we'll know that, and first things will get better, and you never know what will happen in the future, and that unpredictability is probably something beautiful. And second, for most people, that whether you are in a large company or whether you are a founder, if you're frustrated and if you're lonely, probably you are not alone, because there are many others who are actually on this journey and trying to figure out the same thing that you are trying to figure out. So with that, I think thank you very much for joining us today and for the sharing, and it has been very candid, and it has been very how would I describe it? It's very truthful. So hope everyone would have a good end of 2023. Have a great holiday towards the end of the year, and 2024 is going to be a great year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.